Hello guys, welcome back to another college football video. Today's video is super long and it took a lot of time, so please hit the like button, subscribe, and comment down below. This is your home for college football all throughout the offseason. I will be grinding for y'all guys. I promise you, I have y'all set up for the college football season 2022. If y'all need news around it, so hit the like button, subscribe, and comment down below. This is the best community of college football, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button. In today's video, I'll be going over my top 25 going into 2022. Let's get straight into the video. Coming on to number 25, I have NC State. Let's go over some key games they have on their schedule. They play Clemson and North Carolina. Those are their two main games on the schedule. After that, it's a pretty easy ride all the way to undefeated. Their main quarterback, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, his name is Devin Leary. He had 3,433 yards. 35 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's above average quarterback in college football, and I totally expect him to keep it going. And their wide receiver, Thayer Thomas, is returning with 51 receptions and 590 yards and 8 touchdowns in 2021. He was not the main guy. He was the number 2 guy, and I expect them to completely do as good as they did last year or better. NC State kind of shocked the world last year. They beat Clemson. Maybe they can show off again and beat Clemson again. And now, coming on to number 24, we have the Miami Hurricanes. A really game I'm actually really excited for is their game against Texas A&M, probably during Week 4 or Week 5. And then they play North Carolina, Clemson, and Pitt. Miami is a team that's like underdogish that nobody really knows about. That's going to be really good. And nobody knows about this quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, who threw for 2,931 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He came in halfway through the year, and he put up 2,931 yards. Tyler Van Dyke's an absolute stud. And their running back, freshman Jalen Knighton, who had 154 attempts with 561 yards and 8 touchdowns. Miami's defense is good. They are having a new head coach, but I think Miami and Tyler Van Dyke are going to step up, and they're going to be able to throw the ball down the field, and their defense is already really good. And then we have number 23, and that's UCLA. UCLA kind of fell off the market halfway through the year, but I totally think they're going to bounce back with Chip Kelly. Their main games are Utah, Oregon, and USC. USC is probably going to be a top 10 team by them. And then they are returning Dorian Thompson-Robinson, one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in college football. Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for 2,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions with 609 rush yards. And then they're returning one of the best running backs in college football with Zach Charbonnet, who had 202 attempts, 1,137 yards for 12 touchdowns, and a 5.6 average per rush. Zach Charbonnet is probably like the 3rd or 4th best running back in college football. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson is probably top 5 in dual-threat quarterbacks. Now, next one is the Florida Gators 2022. This one comes as a surprise, but I still think Florida's still good under Anthony Richardson. Their main games are Utah, Kentucky, LSU, Georgia, and Texas A&M. Anthony Richardson is an absolute stud. Now he gets to be the number 1 guy and show what he's really made of. Throwing only half through the year, he had 529 yards with 6 touchdowns, but he had 401 rush yards, and he was their number 2 quarterback. Honestly, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a top 10 quarterback with top 10 rush yards in the league, even though he's a quarterback. I still think he's that good at running the ball. And their defense has to get better under Billy Napier. I totally think they'll do that, and they're going to be really good in 2022. Coming in at 21, we have the Lsu Tigers. LSU has games like Florida, Auburn, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. They have one of the hardest schedules in college football going to 2022. And then they have a transfer quarterback from Arizona State who was really solid at Arizona State. His name is Jaden Daniels, 2,380 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2021. That was his worst year yet because Jaden Daniels was a Heisman candidate from top YouTubers, top analysts, top people. Jaden Daniels was one of the best quarterbacks in college football heading into 1 year, but then he kind of fell off the map. LSU, I mean, they will miss Derek Stingley, but I feel like they just have too much. They have a new head coach. They're going to be crazy good. And then Kentucky's coming in at 20. This could surprise a few of y'all, but Will Levis is just too good, I feel like. And their games are Florida, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Will Levis is the 3rd best quarterback in the SEC, maybe the 2nd best. I could argue the 2nd best. He had 2,826 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Will Levis is the best mobile quarterback in the league. He doesn't juke. He just trucks you. This dude is as big as a tight end Kentucky has one of the best quarterbacks in college football heading into 2022, and I totally put my mind and headset into that. And then coming on at 19, we have the Wisconsin Badgers. Badgers, they have fell off the past 2 years, but I feel like this is going to be the year they get back into it with their games: Ohio State, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Minnesota. Their running back, Braylon Allen, is just too good to not be said as a top 10 Heisman candidate. Best running back heading into 2022. Braylon Allen had 186 rushes, 1,268 yards, with 12 touchdowns and 6.8 average. And this kid is only 18 years old. He's dominating a D1 group Power 5 college football level, and he's already the best running back in college football. That's really, really hard to do. No one's ever done that before. Coming on at number 18, we have Auburn. Auburn has a tough schedule ahead of them, and I'm actually going to one of their games. They play Penn State University, and I'm going to that game. The Auburn-Penn State game is the best rematch heading into 2022. So Auburn-Penn State going to that game. And then they verse LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M, and Alabama. Let's talk about Tank Bigsby because I feel like he's one of the best running backs. One of the best running backs in the SEC, and one in all the best in college football. He was my player lock last year, and he ran for 200. He had 223 attempts, 1,099 yards, 10 touchdowns with a 4.9 average yards per rush. I had him as a player lock, and I totally expect him to be as good this year. Coming out at number 17, we have the Oregon Ducks. They do play Georgia week 1 of college football, which is probably going to be the best game of the 2022 year. Week 1, better than Ohio State, Notre Dame. I kind of have a feeling like that because Oregon is just a team that will upset you. And they verse UCLA and Utah. And then they have a really, really good transfer quarterback in Bo Nix, who threw for 2,294 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Bo Nix, halfway through the year at Auburn, was throwing the best season of his life. But then he got injured and had to ruin half of his year. He was going to easily throw over 3,500 yards. Bo Nix just needs a new system. Auburn was in his place. I feel like Bo Nix is actually going to be a top 15 quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks in that conference. And now we have 16, North Carolina. They do play Notre Dame, Pitt, Miami, and NC State. Their schedule is kind of easy, as you know. I've talked a little bit about North Carolina. I feel like this is a huge bounce-back year for them, and they need this. And they'll get momentum week 1 because they have really easy games. Josh Downs is the main guy we're talking about. He's the best wide receiver in the nation. He had 101 receptions with 1,335 yards with 8 touchdowns. And they have a really, really, really good young stud quarterback in Drake May. I'm super excited to see what they do on the offensive side of the ball because I already know North Carolina's defense is going to be top tier and one of the best, knowing that they have everybody that they have. I think it's going to be a huge bounce-back year. What do y'all think about that? And then we have number 15, Baylor. And Baylor is kind of surprising for some of y'all. They play Oklahoma and Texas. All right, guys, we just received some message from Baylor that Gary Bohannon is being replaced by Blake Shapen. I like this idea. Most Baylor people do not like this idea. Blake Shapen is probably one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football heading into 2022. Remember when Blake Shapen completed like his first 21 passes in that game against Oklahoma State? Blake Shapen is better than Gary Bohannon, and Baylor just recognized that. He threw around 596 yards and 5 touchdowns in only a few games. Ole Miss is coming on at 14. Ole Miss has what I like too. Ole Miss plays Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Another quarterback transfer from USC, Jackson Dart, who had 1,353 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He was a freshman at USC and didn't play most of the year. He only played about 3 or 4 games, and he showed a lot of improvement. I have him at my number 5 on top 5 quarterbacks going into 2022. That's one of the main reasons I literally have Ole Miss being there. Other than Jackson Dart, they don't have much that I can prove for them to be good. Jackson Dart, I just know is good. And then coming on at number 13, we have Michigan State. They do play Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Penn State, and Minnesota. I do believe that they have a pretty hard schedule. I think most everybody can say that. Main task is Penn State and Ohio State. And then their quarterback returning is Peyton Thorne, who threw for 3,240 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He's solid. He's solid for the Spartans. I can say he helps the Spartans throw the ball. He's a above average quarterback that gets his job done. Pitt coming on at number 12. I don't have too much hype around them, but Most people think this is a little bit high for them. I just don't know yet. I just don't know. But I know they're top 15. I know they're good. I just don't know if they're how good they were last year. They start out with West Virginia, North Carolina, and Miami. They did get one of the best transfer quarterbacks in the portal. Another guy from USC, Keaton Slovas, who threw for 2,153 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Keaton Slovas is a guy that's been talked into the Heisman campaigns. He's been talked in a bunch of Heisman stuff, and maybe he can get back to that this year. I don't know if he's will, but they definitely try to get him there. And then coming on at Oklahoma, this one may surprise more of y'all too. And new coach Brent Venables, the defense is already down. They have a good defense now. Let's see if the offense can capitalize. They versus Nebraska, Texas, Baylor, and then they have probably one of the best transfer quarterbacks from UCF, and that's Dillon Gabriel, 814 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He was hurt mostly all year, but he's broken almost every single UCF passing record there is. He's the best UCF quarterback ever. I can honestly say that, honesty. Coming on number 10, this might seem high for Michigan, but I don't know if they're as good as they were last year. They versus Iowa, Penn State, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Ohio State. Honestly, I think they wouldn't have been as good if Blake Corum did not come back this year. But Blake Corum did come back. He is probably going to be in my player lock this year at running back. I have so much hype in this guy. He had 144 rushes for 952 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he was hurt halfway through the year and still had 952 rush yards. And then they will be good if they actually start J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is better than Cade McNamara at quarterback. John Harbaugh needs to get with it and know that J.J. McCarthy's better. My bad. I just pronounced his name wrong. Jim Harbaugh needs to get with it. Coming on at number 9, I have so much faith in this team. I think this team is going to be top tier. I just think they're going to be so good. And that is Texas A&M Aggies. They play Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, Auburn, and LSU. One of the hardest schedules in college football. And they have one of the best running backs. Let me re-announce it. They have the best running back in college football. Devin H.A. is too good to not say he's the best. He had 130 rushes, 910 yards, 9 touchdowns with 7 average per rush. When you have 910 yards, 7 average, 9 touchdowns, and 130 rushes, you're not even the number one guy. Remember that. Isaiah Spiller's ahead of him last year. And now he'll be the number one guy. And if he averages 7, he'll be a monster. Coming on at number 8 is a team that I didn't really think was that good last year. Now I know that they are good. After playing Ohio State like that, you can't say they're not top 10, and here they are. Utah plays Florida, UCLA, USC, Oregon, and those are their games. Their quarterback, Cam Rising, is literally a stud. I literally have so much faith in him. He threw for 2,493 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Utah's not a team that really throws the ball. They don't really have many playmakers. Cam Rising got the job done. He's just an average quarterback who can get the job done. That's what I like about him. And then coming in at number 7, new coach that I like way more than Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. They play Ohio State, North Carolina, Clemson, and USC. That's the second best game in college football this year. Notre Dame, Ohio State, week 1. Guys, I'm so excited for that game. Their quarterback, who I think is going to reach the field, is Tyler Butchler. In one game, he threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. If he gets the 3 interceptions down, he looked like a solid quarterback. I saw nothing wrong with him. I looked at my brothers, my family. I said, he's going to be a good quarterback one day. I saw potential in him. He was a freshman, so think about how much better he's already gotten this spring, coming into the fall. Coming in at number 6, we have the USC Trojans. I don't have them at being 4 yet, but they are definitely going to be good. They have an easy schedule, so that's good and bad all at the same time. They only play Utah, Notre Dame, and UCLA. I do think USC is going to win all those games, but you never know what's going to happen. This is USC and Lincoln Riley. He always loses the big games. They did get transfer quarterback Kayla Williams and a new coach Lincoln Riley that's already one of the best in college football. Caleb Williams threw for 1,912 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He's the guy that took over for He's the guy who took over for Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma and was an absolute stud. And he's going to be a Heisman campaign. Coming in at number 5, we have Clemson. And this is a surprise. Most people have them at 3 or 2 or 4. I have Clemson at number 5. They versus NC State, Notre Dame, and Miami. One of the easiest schedules in college football. I mean, Notre Dame, I can't wait for that rematch. I do think Notre Dame's going to pull that one out. I think Notre Dame is going to beat Clemson this year. But you never know, because I think the right route should go with DJ Uiagalelei. Give DJ another chance. He struggled last year in his first game and throughout the season. But I still have faith in DJ that he's a good quarterback. You saw what he could do versus Iowa State. He looked phenomenal in the Iowa State game. And I just hope they don't start Klubnik. Number 4, don't get mad at me right now. Look, y'all can't get mad at me till September 1st, Thursday, when they play Purdue. And I'm going to show y'all why Penn State is a number 4 team. They play Purdue, Auburn, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio State, Michigan State, one of the hardest schedules in college football. And they have the 3rd best quarterback in college football, in Sean Clifford. Y'all wait. He's going to be so good this year. Sean Clifford threw for 3,107 yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's the best quarterback in Penn State history, and I totally expect him to keep it going this year and have better stats than he always have. They also have the best transfer wide receiver in Mitchell Tinsley, which he goes absolutely crazy. I think Penn State this year is something special. They did get a really, really, really good recruiting class, the best in school history. And just think about this team. I just looked at them, and I'm like, the defense has it. With the new defensive coordinator, the best defense coordinator in college football. They really do. Manny Diaz is going to be great. And then coming out at number 3, we have reigning national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. They play Oregon week 1. That's going to be the best game in college football. Auburn, Florida, and Kentucky. Their quarterback is going to be JT Daniels. Honestly, I don't know what to think about Jordan Daniels. JT Daniels, he's a solid QB, but is he going to be a guy that can lead them to the national championship? I do believe Stetson Bennett is a better guy because JT Daniels has no mobility, and I want a quarterback that has a little bit of mobility. But JT Daniels doesn't have that, so that's why I had them at number 3. And I'm still curious because I could put Penn State in front of them with a heartbeat. Ohio State coming in at number 2 is no surprise. They do versus Notre Dame week 1, and they're already 14.5-point favorites against a team that I put at number 7. They versus Wisconsin, Michigan State, Penn State, their second hardest game, if not first hardest, and Michigan. C.J. Stroud's their quarterback that I think is going to win the Heisman this year. He threw for 4,435 yards, 44 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. He has the second best receiver in the nation. He is the best quarterback in the nation. And Ohio State has everything cooking but the defense. If they get a defense, I do believe that Ohio State will be the number 1 team with that and switch to them in Alabama. I can already switch them in Alabama, but I just can't do it quite yet because Alabama is returning Bryce Young, who did win the Heisman, and he is believably the best quarterback in the nation. I could swap him and C.J. Stroud all day. Alabama plays Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, and Auburn. Bryce Young threw for 4,879 yards, 47 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. The race between number 1, number 3, I can change my number 1, my number 2, my number 3, and my number 4 all in a heartbeat. Alabama is at the top. And I can change Alabama and Ohio State. I can change Georgia and Penn State. I can change Penn State and Ohio State because they do play this year. Alabama is so talented. Is so talented. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below what you think, and who's your top 25. Did y'all think what I thought?